Incremental change. It's the one thing that in every kind of business, the larger a business gets, the more scared they get. And people start to talk about incremental change. We talk an awful lot about innovation. People talk the talk, but with innovation, you need to take risks. And when you start to talk about risk, people get scared. They want certainty, and you fall back into doing incremental change. Now, we're pretty big, and for some, it's easy to say we have a lot to lose, and we certainly do. But when you have a time limit, and when actually your fan base is pretty sort of stagnant, you have to behave differently. And it's breaking out of the mold of incremental change and opening your mind up and going to a freer space. And I always look to growth hackers and what do startups do and how do startups behave? And actually, can I take those learnings and start to apply that into our role within Formula One and the journey that we're on? So that's exactly what we've been doing for the last 2 years within F1 as a marketing department. And I've basically set ourselves a 2-year mandate to really see what boats can we rock and how much can we rock them. And when you do this, you start to get a real taste. When you free yourself up, you can achieve so much more. So I'm going to share 5 things that I've learned on this journey that we're on. And for us, it's about go big or go home. But before we get there, I want to talk about our old boys club. And this is where I found myself starting. And F1 pretty much was an old boys club. Think back to what it was. It was a rights holder business. It was made up of lawyers and accountants. Really, really successful. But there'd never been anything like marketing. No marketing department. There was no digital. So this isn't us speaking metaphorically, just none of this stuff has ever existed. No research, no insights, no data, really. Nothing had happened. And so, actually, what we needed to do was to really kind of look at where we were, understand what was happening, and to be really objective about it. The sport was running into the ground. Fans were disengaged. They were talking to us. They were saying, you know, F1's, it's all about money. It's all about politics. You don't care about the fan. And this is where they weren't wrong. And so we had to do something to really address that and to change it. So in a lot of ways, my marketing brief was super simple. Start from scratch. Forget anything that had come before, because actually nothing had. There was no marketing function. Build a marketing infrastructure. Shore up the fan base. Bring in new fans. And do it really, really quick. In fact, do it quick. By that, what I mean is get some results, but people actually start to question, what does marketing bring to the party? And when you have that, you have to behave differently. You can't just stay in the marketing safe space. We have to have that growth hacker mentality. And it feels quite daunting. In fact, it's actually quite scary. But when you start to do it, it's super freeing because you have to move faster than you're comfortable with. And it forces you to take risks. So it's no coincidence, though, that I'm sure many of you can sit here and you'll remember campaigns, you'll remember kind of marketing, ads, or anything that's touched you. And the work that we all look to and we laud tends to be from brands that have been in a do or die situation. Because nothing makes you more precarious, more vulnerable, more stale, when you think you cracked the formula. So my 5 lessons on our journey to date. Don't cut corners at the start. Really simple to say, but often when you're under a time pressure, you can cut corners at the start. So I'm going to frame it like this. I joined in 2017. We're going to relaunch F1 at the start of 2018. So I have 12 months, but we decide to take 3 months to do research. And I mean kind of proper research. This is markets, different fan groups, truly getting under the skin, no kind of tick box exercises. And what I found with my experience to date is, if you cut corners at the start, if you don't have a super tight input, your output's really baggy. So you have to have everyone aligned within your business on what your North Star is. Who are you? What do you stand for? And where are you going? That then stops every decision later on down the line being an executional decision, talking about color, and should we position the logo in the top left or the top right? Like, get over that stuff. Focus on what strategically you have to nail. But you know, every single thing that we read about F1 said F1 was all about speed. And you have to kind of look at your research, but you also have to use your intuition. And time again, you understand and you kind of speak to fans, and they will talk to you and say, you know, it's all about the speed. And yet, F1 cars are faster than they've ever been before. And yet, fans will very, very clearly say to you, it's actually pretty boring. I've stopped watching it. And when you start to kind of get under the surface, what they actually mean is it's not about the speed at all, but what they've lost is the competitiveness, the wheel-to-wheel racing. And that's what fans want. And so it's understanding that even more. What is racing about? Racing for us is about raw energy of competition. Speed can often be seen to be cold, quite technical, quite bloodless. When you talk about racing, there's a grittiness to it. It's about rivalries. It's about sort of humans. It's the drama. And that's the story that we have to tell within Formula One. And so we lock that down as our input, and then we run at that 100 miles an hour. Rule number 2, act like you don't know what you're doing. Now, what that doesn't mean is that you don't know who you are and where you're going. And 100% you have to know that. You need to know those two things. But be open to how you get there. There is so much literature out there as to why big companies will fail, why they lose their edge. And the one thing that comes up most frequently isn't that they didn't spot the issues. They spot the issues. They often respond. But what you often see is they got stuck in their own formulas. They're drinking their own Kool-Aid. And that's what made them fail. So I think the one thing that we can all learn from growth hackers and startups is an openness to a new way of doing things and a complete disregard for the rules that have gone before. The approach of just trying stuff, measuring it, and see what sticks. And it's really important you do that through trying and not asking. Asking people what they want is a surefire way to get a super conventional answer. So nothing is going to kill off innovation any faster than a pre-test. Most people don't know what they want or how they think. People just do. And it slows everything down. It zaps momentum. So do first, then test, and test again. And in F1, definitely do your testing quick. Because when you're dealing with teams that can build cars from the ground up in less than 2 weeks, it's definitely not going to stick if I'm saying I need more than a week to test a headline for an email. And so do it at speed, but keep testing. And I think from that testing, we've taken lots of learnings from what other brands and businesses do in that customer response. And through that learning, we've optimized it. And you see the engagement with fans growing. Social media grows at sort of 54% year on year. We're just up at over 23 million fans in less than 2 years. And this is what we've got to keep doing. Keep testing some of the things that you think are crazy because you don't know how someone's going to react to it. Now, not everything has gone perfectly well, it would be fair to say. And I would suggest that we definitely launched F1 TV too soon. But taking on that growth hacker mentality, that startup, working within digital is a really different space to working in broadcast. And often, you are always in beta mode. And so it's been a bumpy ride. But the one thing I think we've done is we've listened to fans, we've responded quickly, we've refunded, and we've made the product better, more stable. And I think it's in a much better place now, 12 months on, with actually the fan input, seeing how users engage with it, use it, and what they want for it. And that has been invaluable. Rule number 3 for me, don't be proud. So part of acting like you don't know what you're doing is also about working with experts who do and relinquishing some control. And as a brand owner, as a rights holder, that can be really tough. So often we'll get caught up within our own rules and our own guidelines, but sometimes it's absolutely best to loosen that grip and to hand your brand over. Netflix, prime example. When we signed the deal with Netflix, we handed over editorial control. Pretty scary thing to do. But you know what? Experts are absolute experts in crafting engaging pieces of content. I would argue, if we're going to broadcast a race to 490 million unique TV viewers, do it in over 200 countries, we're pretty good at that. But you know what? We don't know how to tell a story like Netflix does. And they've done that incredibly successfully for us. Again, Bape, a Japanese urban fashion brand. Definitely something we as Formula One know nothing about. So hand our brand over to someone that knows exactly what they're doing and engaging a hype beast, super connected, youthful audience, and let them do their thing. Number 4, don't be a purist. So we actually got our advertising agency to do our rebrand, which is not the done thing, but we got a good, strong relationship with them. And they do take a design-centric, holistic approach, so it worked for us. But what was amazing about working with them on the rebrand was because of where they were coming from. They stress-tested absolutely everything against the final product. They were thinking about, where is it going to show up? How is it going to be used? And how is it going to fit within popular culture? And often in the past, when you're working potentially with a pure design agency, you can spend an awful lot of time on your guidelines. What does it look like on 9 different types of letterhead? But the truth is, that's not what real people are going to see. And so always keep your eye on your fan, your end user. How is this going to show up? And in a really tight timeline, that 12-month period, 3 months has gone on research. It saved me a whole heap of time at the end, because what I didn't have was one agency unpicking what the previous agency had done, saying it doesn't work actually in this environment. Number 5, one that I still feel every single day, you won't please everyone. So to bring in fresh blood, we knew we had to reinvigorate the sport, to give it a dynamism and an energy that had been lacking for many years. And it won't surprise you that actually F1 has a huge fan base of people who loved it just the way it was. And as Jill said earlier, we didn't want to lose them. But if we're going to bring in new people, new fans to the sport, we couldn't pander to them either. And so we have to behave differently if we're going to grow the brand. So we found a balance. And we started by understanding, what did our core fan base feel was currently lacking? And we gave them what they absolutely craved: access to more content, an ability to get closer to the sport, whether that's through data, insights, F1 TV, allowing drivers and teams to actually post social content. But then we took a real switch on our tone and the energy. Fair to say, not everyone loved it. Hated on the logo a lot. I came off social media for about a week. hated on the energy. Some still do. But you know what? We didn't let us off course. If anything, it strengthened our resolve. And it's what led us to a partnership this year with the Chemical Brothers. Not something you would expect Formula One to do. But the brilliant thing is, it's been our most effective campaign to date. 5 levels of engagement, new audiences coming into the sport. But you know what? Brilliantly, it's our most polarizing campaign to date. Marmite is a great thing. Don't settle for anything in the middle. So to summarize how we're evolving fan engagement and bringing new fans into F1, 5 lessons. Don't cut corners at the start. Act like you don't know what you're doing. Don't be proud. Don't be a purist. And you're absolutely not going to please everyone on your journeys. Thank you.